Hello, I'm Fred Helou, CEO and founder of Vagaro. Welcome to You Know What I Mean, a podcast where I talk to interesting people about interesting subjects that will hopefully inspire you in your own personal and professional life. Let's get it on. You know what I mean? Welcome to the You Know What I Mean podcast. My name is Fred Helou. I'm the CEO and founder of Vagaro. And here with me is Joanne, the founder of Innersense.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Fred.
How are you doing?
So nice to be here with you today.
Nice to be with you here as well.
Thank you.
So for people that don't know, can you tell me what Innersense is?
Absolutely. Well, I am a hairstylist by trade. Been a hairstylist since 1989. So it's been a long, long time. And my husband and I founded a brand called Innersense Organic Beauty. And so now we are manufacturers, product creators, and community builders and education disseminators. So it's been quite a long journey from standing behind the chair to now owning. This is our 20th year doing business as a haircare company. So pretty exciting. Yeah, pretty exciting stuff. I mean, but as you know, as a founder yourself, it's a long road from start to finish. And as I say, business is not a destination, it's a journey. So
100%.
Here we are on the journey.
So that's incredible. 20 years. That's a long time.
It is a long time.
I've been with Vagaro for 16 years. So I know how that feels.
Yes.
You know, you have 4 years on me, so I can't even imagine.
It's the wrinkles. You can see the wrinkles, right?
That's going to be the next product,
right?
I guess.
Yeah, it needs some wrinkle cream.
So I know you had an inspiring story why you guys created Innersense. Can you?
Absolutely. I'd love to share my story. Okay. Like I said, I was a stylist. Greg was a hairstylist. And I like to talk about Innersense as a love story. We met and fell in love in the beauty industry, and me being a stylist behind the chair. Greg had already left the chair. He was only behind the chair for about 10 years. He stepped away to actually get into sales and marketing and eventually like product development for other hair care companies. And so I was a stylist behind the chair, but then I was very, very passionate about education. I come from a lineage of educators. My father was an elementary school principal, and my mom was a kindergarten teacher. So I, left high school going to college thinking that I was going to become a teacher. And after my first year of college, I decided that really wasn't the path that I wanted to take. And I realized that I had been like cutting and perming everybody's hair in my dorm floor. So I decided to go to cosmetology school. I feel like I just backed the story up, but I guess that's, we have time here. So anyway, I decided to go to cosmetology school and just found a real deep passion for the industry. I find hairstylists, and the industry just to be very passionate, loving, caring people. And I think that that's what I was really drawn to, was servicing people and making people feel good about themselves. And I think my husband had a similar path, but like I said, he stood behind the chair. And I think he kind of feels like it was a little bit too much for him, like the emotions were too much for him. So he ended up going to work for major manufacturers. So my path behind the chair, I incorporated education. So there were companies that hired me you call it like a platform artist. So I would come in and companies would hire me to come in to do the hair shows and educate on stage. And that's where my husband and I met. And like I said, fell in love. And we always knew that we wanted to do something together and kind of always visioned just our life forward together in the beauty industry. We didn't really know exactly what that meant, but I think we really shared that same passion for the industry for sure, and really have a core value of wanting to give back. And really it was when my daughter was 22 months old. She's my oldest daughter. She's now 29 years old, getting ready to be 30 this year. She's a phenomenal woman, but she was diagnosed with a rare genetic disorder called Williams syndrome. And so she was 22 months old. I was a very young mom, and as you can well imagine, it turned my life upside down. I turned to health. And so I figured I wanted to be the most healthy person that I could be for her and for my family. And so I recognized that there were so many chemicals that I was being exposed to. Part of my health journey was like, wow, there's a lot of chemicals in my house. And then the light bulb went off like, wow, there's a lot of chemicals in the salon. And then she has cute, adorable curly hair. And this is her 22-month-old self. And so I'm using all these, of course, I'm a hairstylist. And so I'm using all these products on her. And there was this one particular product that I loved using because it was a really great detangler. It detangled her hair. What I noticed after a period of time of using that product, her hair started to dry out. And I was like, this is weird. And this was kind of all simultaneously of kind of me awakening to more of a healthful path. I became a label reader. I turned the bottle over. And what did I find? But silicones, resins, plastics, synthetic fragrances, and all these things that I did not want on my daughter's hair. I didn't want on my hair. I didn't want on my client's hair. I didn't want in the salon. And then peeling it back even further, what I found out, because then, of course, this started a conversation with me and Greg. And after we started talking about it, his light bulb went off, and he was actually sitting in boardrooms and, understood like what the manufacturing process like really entailed. And so what we found and what I found was it's not only the products and the ingredients, the names of the ingredients that are on the label. Like, I'm just going to use shea butter, for instance. Like if you see shea butter on a label, on a packaging, and it says shea butter, for all of us here, we think shea butter, right? Well, no, that's not really what it is. There are different grades of shea butter. So there is like the lowest grade of shea butter and the highest grade of shea butter. So the lowest grade of shea butter, when it is processed, it's synthesized with petrochemicals. I mean, it's being hit with synthetics and things that you would never that don't have anything to do with shea butter, but that extends that shea butter. It does all these things, right? Or you can use shea butter that's in this very, very raw state, but on the label for you and I as the consumer, all it says is shea butter. So we would never know. I would never know.
And that's still the case today.
It's still the case today. And we're, working towards legislation and things like that to change those things. But still to this day, it was that way 20 years ago, and it's still that way today. And so sometimes it cracks me up when I hear people say, oh, I can't use shea butter in my hair. Shea butter doesn't work in my hair. And I'm kind of smiling to myself thinking, you don't even really know if you're using, like, what percentage of shea butter you're using. Because shea butter is a beautiful, healing, incredible ingredient. But if you're using it, that I'm going to just say that $5 a pound shea butter, instead of the $30 a pound shea butter, you're going to have a very different experience, and it's going to do very, very different things on your hair. So that was kind of in a nutshell, like what started the journey to, I'm going to call it clean beauty. Greg likes to kind of call it clean chemistry now, because the whole clean beauty movement has become kind of, I don't know, watered down in a way, fake or marketed or whatever. But then also simultaneously, and so Greg really is the one, he's the chemist. He's not a chemist, but he is really the one that took the idea and really did all the research and development and started using all of his connections in the industry. And he was the one that really was rolling up his shirt sleeves like, hey, this is valid. We're going to do this. And meanwhile, I think for me, my reflection was being a now new mother, young mother. I was actually pregnant with my son, believe it or not, at the time that my daughter was diagnosed. So it was a very trying time for me, being young, having, practically a newborn that wasn't really developing exactly like I'm going to say normal children did. And so then that was kind of curious to me, because I was a first-time mom, and I was getting ready to deliver my son, Max, who is now 27 years old. And I'm proud to say that my daughter holds the title of Director of Joy at Innersense Organic Beauty, and my son is actually in the finance department. So I'm very, very proud that we have a family-owned business and that we're all
awesome.
working together. It's pretty inspiring. And I'm happy that I can give Morgan such a valued place in the world, because a lot of people, this is going to make me feel a little emotional, but a lot of people that have disabilities and just a lot of people in the world in general don't feel valued for what they can bring to the table. And so I'm really, really proud that I'm able to provide her an opportunity to work in such a wonderful industry and such a loving company.
That's awesome.
But along with that, another thing I realized was, holy Toledo, I'm going to be a caregiver the rest of my life. And that was a really, like, talk about the rug being pulled out. Like, that was like a showstopper, right? Like, how am I going to do this? Like, am I prepared? What does this mean? But what I sat back and reflected on was I had already been a caregiver. I had already been a caregiver standing behind the chair. When my clients came in, I was caring for them. I was loving them. I was meeting them where they were. Having the difficult conversations, you're as a stylist, you're kind of an unsung therapist in a way, right? So I think with Innersense, with my husband, or Greg, the idea of him wanting to really bring these clean, efficacious products, something that had never been done in our industry before, my part of it was wanting to be a company and wanting, when anybody interacts with our bottle or our packaging or any sort of education or anything that we're offering, wanting to be a place of sanctuary for them, like wanting to give people so that they could walk away and feel uplifted somehow. Because I always talk about the stylist being the caregiver. So I wanted Innersense to be a company that cared for the caregiver. And I think that that's something that we do, like I said, through everything that we do, through our education, through, interacting with the packaging, the ingredients. And I have stylists that come to me that say, I didn't really understand like it all. But now after using Innersense, maybe my psoriasis is healed, or now I'm really thinking more about the food that I'm eating when I'm on a break, or, thinking about like more wellness aspects to my life. And so that makes me really, really proud, because I think one of the seeds that I sowed personally with bringing the brand forward was wanting to up-level our industry. Because I think oftentimes hairstylists are kind of seen as less than, or not as good. And I even know for myself, like having to tell my parents that I was going to leave college to go to cosmetology school, that was a big thing for me, because I thought, even myself, my own image of a hairdresser was like, I had to kind of grapple with that a little bit. Like, it's not an educated profession. Doesn't have that same, kind of cachet that other professions do. Yep. I think that's changed a lot now in the industry, but I know for me, I wanted to be part of that change.
That's awesome. So so you guys, that was like 20 years ago, right? And so it would have been around 2005. You had that awakening. Your husband started reading all the labels. I mean, you were reading all the labels. You probably had no clue what's good or bad at the time. No. So there was no ChatGPT back then.
No,
for you to know.
There was not even like internet. I remember like when my daughter was diagnosed even before that. So, I mean, there was a launch pad. It wasn't like Morgan's diagnosed and then boom, we have Innersense. That's just not even how it happens, because there was a lot of trial and error. You make it sound like it's
so easy. I'm sure you guys went through.
I'm sorry. If I made it sound easy,
how many years did it take to create the products?
I mean, it's 20 years this year, but I would say it was like probably like a 5-year-ish launch pad between just all the iterations, the trial and error, connecting with manufacturers and chemists. And quite frankly, we had to kind of find manufacturers that were willing to get on board with what we were trying to do and what we were talking about, because that's not that you think back then, like they had their way. It was the easy way. This is what we do,
Copy paste.
Yeah,
right?
copy
Just
paste,
put
put a white label. I mean,
Yep.
And then this is how you do it. And so no. It took years.
Okay, so meanwhile, you're still a hairstylist,
yes.
I assume, and a mom.
Yes.
Maybe by now, mom for two
of
kids.
Yes.
And at what point were you able to finally use your own product on your customers?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was like maybe 5 years into it or something like that. Probably by the time. Oh, it was very, very exciting. Yeah. I mean, I think definitely for me, I was super, super naive. I don't know what it's been like for you, like on the.
I think naivete is the best thing about starting a business, because if I knew what I probably would not have started a business. You know what I mean?
I wholeheartedly agree with you, Fred. Greg and I talk about that all the time.
Ignorance is a bliss, I think.
Ignorance is bliss. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Oh, yeah. Yeah, this could be really therapy right now because.
Okay.
I mean, because that, even like you talk about like me standing behind the chair. Well, I thought, oh, great. Greg and I are in business together. We're going to like go out and really educate everybody and tell everybody, hear this wonderful thing, because now I've had this awakening, right? And so now I want everybody else to use something that's great for them. And then you would walk in a salon and they're like, oh, I have that already. It's XYZ.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to name any names, but there was definitely a very popular brand back then at the time that people just completely saw as exactly what I was talking about. And so it just, I think very much immediately we realized that we were going to have to educate. Yep. And I don't like to talk about this piece of it a lot because when Greg talks about it, I'm like, stop talking about that because that's like in the past. But it is funny because we actually had to kind of pull back from the whole salon industry for a period of time just to survive.
Oh, wow.
And we ended up pivoting, and Whole Foods picked us up, and we were going into natural product stores and things like that because the salon stylist was just not getting it quick enough. And so out of sheer grit and dedication to what we were doing, we pivoted. And sure, we were in the salons of the early adapters and the people that kind of really understood it.
Yep.
But we did have to pivot for a while. And that was painful.
So I'm assuming then your first products were a shampoo and conditioner. It sounds like.
They were shampoos and conditioners. And I think that was, and people don't know this because we just recently relaunched body care this past year.
I used it this morning. And thank you, by the way, for giving me samples.
Of course.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
It was really great.
Yeah, good. I'm happy to hear that. We did launch with a body lotion and a body butter when we first launched.
I use body shampoo. What is it?
The body wash.
Body wash.
Body wash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I usually use soap bar. It was great.
Yeah, no, it is nice. It's very, very moisturizing. But when we first launched, so we had, I think, 2 hair baths, 2 conditioners. We had our inner piece. I think it was the other one. We may have had like 1 gel but then we had a lotion and a body butter. When I'm talking about way back when we launched, because again, I was so aware of this like holistic idea of like ingredients, right? So that's what we launched with. Well, hairdressers don't want a body butter and a body lotion. They want styling products. So it was a huge miss on our part to not launch with more styling products. But we didn't know that at the time because here we are like this holistic company and, you can't launch with 1 million products, right? I mean, we don't have the,
it's
the
money and the marketing behind it. Even if you create the product, you have to market it.
Exactly. Yeah. So, so it's been a long
and now
journey.
you have a slew of, I assume, styling products as well.
Oh, we have a whole array of styling products and we continue to innovate. I mean, that's another thing that I have to say that I'm really, really proud of Greg about is he's always about innovation and always pushing the wire on what he's going to say clean chemistry is and like how to do things better, like what's going to be more health beneficial and how are we going to continue to move the needle? So he's constantly innovating. Like we just came out with a repair mask, which is a natural bond builder. So there's plenty of lovely bond builders out there, but they're highly synthesized, a lot of synthetic fragrance, a lot of synthetic ingredients. And basically, ultimately, what that does is it just coats your hair. And so your hair, in maybe the first time around or the second time around or the third time around, you're like, oh my God, my hair feels so great. This is wonderful. But what you're not realizing is, and you're basically saran wrapping your hair, and no nutrient dense ingredients that are going to moisturize and hydrate can even get into that, through that barrier. So we've come out with our repair mask, which has hydrolyzed moringa oil, and it's just a bond. It actually brings the bonds together instead of filling the gaps. And so I'm really, really excited about that.
So would you say every product that exists that's not chemically clean, there's a version of it, at least at Innersense, that is there any reason why some products cannot be chemically clean like you guys have created? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to channel Greg right now to think, to hear what he might have to say about it. I mean, I would say there's always alternatives to everything that we're doing. And I think part of it is just, it's inexpensive. I think a lot, like sometimes I look at packaging, some packaging that products are in, and I'm smiling to myself because I'm like, this is the most expensive packaging there ever is. And for that price point, it must be pennies to produce that product that's in the bottle. Right?
So
because I'm a
money spent
manufacturer
on
now. So
packaging
it's like,
than on the-
it's all
yeah,
focusing on packaging. Like it's mind blowing to me that the average consumer doesn't have that awareness. They don't really think that way. They don't know. And it's okay. It's nobody's fault or, none of that. So I think back to your point, like, I always think there's alternatives to things that you're using. I mean, I personally, one thing that I think is the biggest offender, which I would love to see just completely evaporate from this earth ever, is synthetic fragrance. Synthetic fragrance is so toxic, and so many young people, we start them off so early on with all these smelly candles and smelly bath oils. And, the young women want these, smelly chapsticks and all these things that are, and those are endocrine disruptors. These are actually messing with your genetic makeup. And so people wonder why we're having infertility and, skin conditions and autoimmune disorders and all these things. Well, we've been inundating our bodies with all these harsh chemicals.
So what do I look at the label to make sure there's no synthetic fragrance in it? Is that what it's called?
Yes,
is it called synthetic fragrance?
And I'm not exact. We have had legislation that has moved forward on it, but there's a lot of kind of infighting over it all because I don't think there's a lot of manufacturers that want that stuff disclosed. So you definitely, if it says fragrance, then you kind of have to question.
Is that the case in Europe? Because, you hear about Europe, for example, some of the cereal in Europe, the same brand in Europe doesn't have the coloring products that we use in the United States. Is that similar? So are they ahead of us in that case, would you say?
Majorly. So these were some of the conversations that Greg was hearing when he was working for these other manufacturers about how they would have to have one formula here for the United States and then one formula for Europe. It was the same thing with beauty products. And so when we launched Innersense, we did our best. Well, we did it to have EU standards. So when we go into the EU, we're sold worldwide now. We have absolutely no problem getting certification in those countries because we're not using the offenders. Like it's something like over 3,000 ingredients or something like that are commonly used ingredients that we don't use.
Wow. Incredible. So you started, and then Whole Foods was your first. It sounds like Whole Foods was the launch.
Well, we launched in traditional distribution, believe it or not. And I think that, I like to think that Greg and I are kind of almost like divinely guided in some way. And the distribution didn't really work for us because, like I said, the hairdresser just wasn't ready for us. The clean beauty movement was not here. We were trying to start a party that maybe was not that attractive. I don't know. But so then we kind of pivoted. Like I said, we were still in some salons that were early adapters. And then we moved into Whole Foods and places like, health food stores, things like that. And then eventually what we were able to do was start our online e-commerce.
What year was that?
I don't even remember what year that was. I do know that I'm going to say that it wasn't real early, but it was before 2020.
Okay.
Because what I'm going to say is the distribution model failed horribly for us. We ended up kind of going into some of these Whole Foods type places, which weren't the easiest place to do business either, because I don't know. I don't need to get into why that's not easy to do, but you kind of basically have to kind of almost pay for shelf space. So it's an expensive.
So they don't buy the products from you.
They do, but you kind of they call it a free fill. So you have to free fill them. So you kind of have to stock you do have to stock their shelves to start with.
Okay.
That's like how you set the brand in, basically. But then if a manager leaves and they're like, oh, I want to discontinue this brand because I like this other brand, then they'll discontinue it. But then another manager comes back and goes, oh, I want that product back. And then you've got to free fill again.
Wow.
So it's an expensive. Well, I don't need to tell you, doing business is not
it's not
expensive.
Easy. I've never dealt with retail like that. So
it's well, and that's why I say this. It makes me laugh. You never see a beauty brand like on a Shark Tank or something like that, because it's such a competitive space and it's so saturated that no investor really wants to invest in it. We were really fortunate that we bootstrapped it. We had a few very early, seed rounds, but but basically Greg and I are the sole owners of it, which is,
That's
more
incredible. Than
a lot of people can say, but it definitely, the wrinkles show. So
I don't see any wrinkles. So it went from Whole Foods.
Oh, yes.
Eventually you made it back to the salons, right?
We made it back into the salons, and Whole Foods kind of went away. Well, and I think then we started our e-commerce again. I know it was well before 2020. I don't remember exactly when it was, but lucky for us, guess what happened? Social media happened. The clean beauty movement happened. COVID happened. I know COVID was terrible for many of us, but at the same time too, I think the brand awareness and just the idea of health and wellness exploded during COVID. And so I think that definitely benefited us from the standpoint of people were at home, they were reading, they were researching. A lot of people had stress, hair loss and things like that. So they were caring for themselves in a different way. So it hasn't been that long. It was maybe only 6 years ago where we had maybe 5 employees and now we have 70.
Incredible.
So it's, it kind of was a very much like this snowball effect, like where once it started rolling. And then, of course, the curly hair community found us because our products are so nutrient rich and so moisturizing. The curly hair community loves us. And so, but that wasn't by design. It wasn't like we were going out trying to get the curly hair dollar. It was because we were focused on health. We were focused on healthy hair. And so our products work for everybody.
So I had Curly Scott and Brianna Bell, and they both raved about your product. So, as you know, they specialize in curly hair. So.
Absolutely. Tight curls. Yeah.
So was there this aha moment? Was Instagram or something that made you blow up, or it just was a build-up?
I think it was kind of a build. It was more like a snowball, and then influencers for sure.
Okay.
And I think it was kind of a combination of things. It was social media, the curly hair community, and then of course now we just launched hair color. professional hair color this last year. And so, of course, that's going to draw in a whole nother sector of the beauty industry, of the stylist, of the colorist that want to come in, that want more of a clean alternative to hair color.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I mean, from what I heard you say, you've been in business for 20 years, 15 years of you and your husband grinding it. You had 5 employees, you, your husband, your son and daughter.
No, my son and daughter didn't. My son and daughter didn't come into the business until COVID. Because they came in from school from COVID. But it was like we had like one marketing person, like maybe 2 or 3 people in the warehouse that were shipping. I mean, my husband was shipping products out initially. It was just him and I. And I think one of the things that I reflect back on is I had to stand behind the chair for a long, long time, way longer than I had anticipated, just to put food on the table and just to fuel the business. So I was thinking, totally naive, like, we're going to start this business and I'm going to step away from the chair and I'm going to help Greg and we're going to, skip off into the sunset. And it's like, no, that didn't happen. I actually had to really grind behind the salon, behind the chair. And I actually owned a small salon in Walnut Creek, and I had like other renters there, and very, very small. But, and then actually in the back, there were times when I had massage therapists, but then ultimately the massage therapist left, and then Greg took over. One of the massage rooms was like our warehouse space. And then, he had his office space and everything. And so then it just kind of rolled from there until finally, eventually we have a large office space now in Concord. But I mean, it's been an evolution. I wish that I was, if I could look back, and I wish that I could have been like more joyful through the process. I think it kind of goes back to that naiveness of thinking that it was just going to be like that we were going to be an overnight success. And I remember one time being introduced to Burt's Bees, like a lip chapstick or whatever. And I was like, oh my God, this is such a cool company. Wow, why have I never seen it before? I went online, and it was like, they've been around for 30 years. And I remember, or like maybe even longer than that. I don't remember what it was, but I could remember my like heart sink, like just like really realizing that it's really very far and few between the businesses that are like an overnight success. Yeah. I mean, maybe it's in technology. I mean, I don't know.
No, I mean,
you know what I mean?
I had a very similar, you're talking about your husband shipping. I used to do the same thing. People would order credit card readers that I would put a Vagaro sticker on it every day before I would go home. Like, okay, what orders do we have today? I'm like putting stickers on it, and I didn't like anyone else to do it because I wanted it to be straight and no bubbles on it. So like, it would take forever. And then I'll put them in an envelope and go to the nearest drop box, for USPS, and put all these packages in the mail and go home, and it'd be late at night, and be the dead again, you know what I mean? And but yeah, I mean,
do it all over again. Yeah,
I really think business is not a race; it's a marathon.
Exactly.
The one that wins, that's willing to run the longest, at a steady pace versus, And it sounds like that's what you guys were doing. I mean, you are grinding it for. I'm sure you're still grinding it; it never stops. But you were willing to stick with it for 15 years until it started picking momentum.
And I have to give my husband that credit. I would say, I often say to him, like, he definitely had a hold of Innersense, like with a pit bull grip kind of thing. Like he was, because he'll tell you there were many times where I would just be a puddle on the floor, like sobbing, like, please, can you just go back to work? Please.
Yep.
And luckily he said no, luckily he said no.
Yeah.
Because and I'm sure there's times where he was like, maybe not in a puddle on the floor. That's not his MO, but whatever he was doing. And I was like, we can do this.
Yep.
This is something that's, and I do still feel to this day, this is something bigger than me and bigger than Greg. This is really about a movement, a community, people that are passionate about doing good and being better, and how can we just up level a whole industry as a whole?
Yeah. I mean, I personally feel I've always, even before knowing about your product, just knowing what chemicals hairdressers are dealing with, there's still, I guarantee you there's got to be something. The connection was probably certain cancers or whatever. There has to be some.
Oh, there's statistics on it.
Yeah,
I think there's statistics.
there is, okay.
I mean, specifically, I think one just recently coming out about bladder cancer and hairstylists, that there's a higher, well, and actually now that I'm saying all this, there is an organization that we're very, very involved with that's called Breast Cancer Prevention Partners, and they're out of San Francisco. And the thing that I love about them, we do advocacy and go to Sacramento for legislation to change laws. And the thing that I love about them is that they're educating people on what can you do to prevent breast cancer. It's not just after you're diagnosed, but what are the things that you can do? And ingredients is one of them. Your toxic load, like what are you exposing yourself to? So I do know that, these toxic chemicals are not good for any of us.
Yep. Is there anyone, or are you guys working with legislative to push them
to change? Oh, yeah,
change?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We're working with organizations like Breast Cancer Prevention Partners, and Greg he went back to Washington, D.C., and we're constantly looking to find out where can we advocate for changing the laws.
And sometimes if the laws don't change, somehow you want people to start asking for it to where you're going to go out of business if you don't have clean products, right?
And this is one area that we're really lucky, Fred. We often have hairstylists come to us and they say, my client brought your products into me and they wanted me to use your products because they didn't want the, fill in the blank that stylist was using in the salon. And I have to be, really give those stylists a lot of credit, because sometimes the stylist doesn't want to be told what to do because they want to be seen as the professional, right? But there are stylists that come to us and say, this one client came in with your products and now I want to carry them.
That's incredible.
So, I mean, it is kind of cool to see that the consumer, like what you're saying is, it's like we're voting with our dollars in a way and making these more conscious decisions.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So where did the name Innersense come from?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love that one. So at the time that we were kind of mulling around this idea and kind of having these awakenings, and then, of course, dealing with a newly diagnosed daughter, Greg and I were part of a meditation circle we were living down in North County, San Diego area. And there was one night that Roger, who was the meditation who led the circle, he talked about, it's like your inner essence. It's like you're innocent, like there's something inside of you, like that innocence inside of you. It's like your inner essence. It's like your inner sense. And it was like the minute he said Innersense, I was like, that's the name. Like that. I think I'm saying this probably for the first time in front of anybody else. I'll have to talk with Greg about this. I feel like I had to talk Greg into the name. I don't think he was really on board at the time. I'm going to fact check that.
We're going to keep that, okay? That's not going to. I want Greg to hear it.
No, I know you can hear it. I'll ask him when I go home. But I think for me, supporting anybody. Well, look, let's face it. We're all guided and guarded and driven by this fire within us. Uniquely and individually, everybody is. Whether you want to pay attention to it or not, we are. And so for me, I feel like I am doing a really good thing and doing service to the world by supporting to people on that inward journey to look at that. Like, what is it for you, Fred, that lights you up, that makes you passionate, that gives you fire? And what it is for you is not going to be the same thing that it is for me. And so I just think it's super, super cool to like have a brand and have a community and have a place where people can kind of feel like they can come home to themselves and home. And it doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter what kind of hair you have. It doesn't matter what kind of stylist you are. It doesn't matter, I don't know. I think to me, Innersense is just the idea that we all belong and there's a place for all of us.
Love it. It's a great name.
Thank you.
And to me, it sounds clean too.
Yeah.
Like it sounds like that's a product that, you know what I mean? It's good for my Innersense too, right? Like, right? So, no, it's a great name. I loved it.
Oh, thank you.
Yep, so
I appreciate it. I hope I can take credit for the name. I'm going to have to ask Greg.
just say you came up with it. Just say you came up with it. And the product, by the way, I've used it for the last 3 days. It's been good. I don't have a lot of hair to
You've got great hair.
But, it was good. I use your shampoo. I like the little tingly. Did they all give you that little tingly thing, or is it just?
I think it was just the one that I gave you.
Okay,
yeah, that's our new Renew scalp hair bath and conditioner. Yeah,
I love that.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah,
yeah.
And I didn't know I need to use conditioners. You told me that conditioners are.
What did you use the conditioner?
Yeah, I did use it.
What'd you think? Did you notice your hair was any different, or not really, or like?
I mean, it feels good.
Yeah.
I have oily hair. Is that good for oily hair usually? Or?
I mean, I wouldn't over condition, but I just think even like for you, I might have told you this, like the size of literally like a pea size, and then just awakening it in your hand and then just putting it over just like as your last piece in the shower and then rinsing out. You might find that the oil might rebalance.
Okay.
Maybe your hair's, what I find with using Innersense and what people come to me and testimonies that they'll tell us is that your hair stays cleaner longer.
Okay.
So you might find that whatever you were using beforehand, you were stripping all the oil away. And so that your hair was like, oh, I got to produce oil really quick because there's nothing here. So you might find that your microbiome and the whole scalp becomes more in balance.
The only way I'm going to know is if I don't shower for a couple of days
to
see if it's working.
There you go.
I shower every day just because I have oily hair. I'm like,
try it. See what happens.
We'll find out. My wife might not
just don't come to work on those days.
So now Innersense, it's at Ulta.
Yes.
That's incredible.
Yes.
All their locations, or
all their locations.
That's amazing.
We're actually one of their top sellers around the world, and Ulta it's very exciting. They're moving into different countries, so and we are all also worldwide. We sell throughout the world. So
and your marketing is still mostly social media. Do you guys even pay for marketing? I mean, I don't see Innersense ads on TV or anything. Is that
no ads on TV, but definitely social media.
Social media,
yeah.
Okay, Google ads, stuff like that.
Yeah. We'll be stalking you now. I'm sure that you've said Innersense a couple times in front of your phone.
I better mute my phone. I have no problem. I love seeing ads, by the way. A lot of people have issues with
We have good ones. I think they're pretty. I think they're uplifting.
Yeah. I mean, as long as it's related and stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah, sure, I'll try. Might buy this shirt
Why
or
not?
whatever it is.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's incredible. So, and you do have a direct sales to salons as well, right?
We
now?
do. So we wholesale
could you share
thousands and thousands of salons across the United States. And now, like I said, I keep saying worldwide because it's so fun, Fred, to go to, like, we were just in Paris and then to walk in a salon and there's our products right there on the shelf. We just landed a salon that has 17 locations. That's a curl special salon. And then talking to the owner there, when we were over there, they said it was one of their clients that came in and directed them to Innersense. And they said, you have to try this product. You have to. And so then next thing you know, we're in 17 locations over there. So it's pretty exciting.
Have you ever just walked down the street and wondered if the salon is one of your salons?
Absolutely.
Isn't that the great feeling? Because I've had that happen with me with Vagaro, or I would see the Vagaro sticker on their window or something like that. Right.
No, it makes, and I mean, I don't know about you, but I definitely have friends that will go into a salon that I had no clue was an Innersense salon, or they'll be in a different state and they'll snap a picture with themselves on the shelf next to the products, or they'll sit in a chair and somebody will start telling them about the brand story and they know me personally or something. It's really sweet.
I love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Really, really sweet.
So what's next for you guys?
Ooh, well, color. We launched color. So I think that color is definitely on my mind for sure. And we're doing a big push and we have a ton of education. I mean, I'm such a big proponent of education and really foundational education.
Yes.
So I think what I always resonated as a stylist was when I could go into a classroom and there was somebody up on stage that was really giving me tools that I could take back into the salon, real foundational things like this is what you do. And if you know this foundation, you can do any sort of haircut. Or if you know this color theory, you can use these 40 shades and create any color. I mean, to me, that's really putting power in somebody's hand.
So how are you guys going around about that? And how do you teach everybody that it's okay to do all kinds of hairs and your product work on all hair and you don't need to use different products on different hair types and so on, right?
Yeah, I think it's just, like I said, it's just foundational. We're teaching foundations that are going to be able to be applied across the board. The same thing like what I was saying with hair color is big on my mind for sure. And it's just about teaching really good color theory. So
how do you amplify this? Do you have a YouTube channel, for example, where you're like,
well, we're going to be launching a digital chair on our website, on our professional website. And then, of course, we do have a YouTube channel. We have a Instagram, a pro Instagram, a pro Facebook page. And basically, you can come to our website and we have education every single month.
And it's all free.
Yeah, we have free education. We have some paid classes. But yeah, you basically just go to our pro website.
Which is Innersense.
Innersense.com.
I'm not going to ask you to spell it or whatever. But okay. So color is a big deal, and color, you're not planning to specialize in certain type of color. Like, can somebody make their hair pink or red or green or just blonde? Or,
we're going to be expanding fashion colors for sure. There are some things that you can create in that regard. It's probably not as vibrant as some of the other brands at this point, but we will definitely be expanding that. But today, we have a full range where you can create cover gray, you can do lightning, everything.
Yep.
So, yeah.
So when was the moment that you felt I made it? Or have you even had that moment?
I mean, maybe I need to take a drink of water on this one. I don't know if for me, Greg might have a different answer. I'm going to go home and ask him that question. I like this question. I don't know that I'm necessarily the type of person that it's like, because to me, what I hear in like, oh, I've made it is like, oh, I'm here, I've arrived, like there's no place else to go. And I think I'm like a perpetual student, a perpetual, like always wanting to things to get better, wanting to always elevate. So I wouldn't say that there was like a moment that I was like, oh, I've made it. But there are moments where I'm just like, wow. Like that moment that I walked into that salon in Paris, I was like, how is this even happening? Like, I've always known we wanted to be a global company. Like I can remember one time, like some women's group or something like that. And it was like a business group. And they were like, stand up and introduce yourself, not like who you are today, but like who you see yourself as. And I mean, we're talking, this was very, very early on. And it was like, hi, I'm Joanne Starkman, the founder of Innersense Organic Beauty, a global company, that services hairstylists all around the world, or like whatever it was. And it's like, wow, now I can say that's what we're doing.
And it's so hard to remember that, right? Like a lot of people see that probably in you, but you're always thinking about what is it that I haven't done yet?
Exactly.
It's kind of,
for sure.
I mean, but when was it where you felt we're doing the right thing? At least, like I know you were crying and you're telling your husband go get a job. At what point did the switch happen where like, oh, thank you for sticking with this and creating this amazing company and so on?
I'm going to give a really shallow answer.
Okay.
I'm going to give a really shallow answer and then I'll give a more enriched answer. The shallow answer is like when we could pay our bills.
Yep.
I was super happy about that. I was so happy, like
just to be cash flow positive.
Just to make cash flow positive. That didn't happen for a long time. And it was so stressful and so stressful on my poor husband because, of course, him being the provider. And at the time, it was more so like I was the provider. And so it was really hard on us, really, really. I mean, I think I would have done things. I don't know if I would have done things different. That's not true. I don't know. I just look back to those points and I'm like, that's a lot of trauma that I need to let go of because those were tough times. So that's like maybe not such a shallow answer, but that is definitely clear.
I mean, I remember happening to me. I had $5,000 left in the bank, and the next month I would have been profitable for the first time. And I was worried. I mean, $5,000 running company was $5,000 in the bank. And the next month, I think I was $200 cash flow positive. So I had $5,200. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But I was like,
finally, I do know what you mean.
I'm on the other side of this.
Right.
You know what I mean? And hopefully it'll be upside from that point on. I still remember that to this day. That was to me like, okay, this, probably going to be okay. We're probably going to be okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep. So you had that moment, and I'm sure later you had some other moments where you're like, okay, this is amazing,
Yeah, I think the more pretty answer for me is just like watching the community come together. I think for me, it's like when, you met Brianna and Scott, and they're just such incredible, lovely people. You met Casey Moss that we went to dinner with the other night.
Great
like,
people.
Are you kidding me right now? Like we can come together as stylists, all these incredible people, like from across the country, across the world that are so loving and passionate and just want to do good for the world. And I'm the one that has kind of, not me, but like my company, my organization is the one that has brought them together.
Yep.
Like that feels pretty cool.
Amazing.
Yeah.
What else do you want to share?
Oh Lord, what else do I want to share? I want to share about my podcast.
All right.
I want to tell everybody about my podcast, Trust Your Inner Sense. No competition, Fred. We're totally two different podcasts, I'm sure. Mine's a little bit Gemini. It's a little bit all over the place, just like me. But I want the Trust Your Inner Sense podcast to be a place where people can learn about wellness, about the beauty industry, about, connect with other founders, like maybe people that are doing really good things in the world. And I love connecting with people. I think that was probably the reason I became a hairstylist to start. And so it's been really, really funny watching myself with this podcast because I kind of have this like renewed sense of like the entrepreneurial spirit, which sounds kind of crazy because I found myself like just being a little guerrilla, like guerrilla marketing, like just going around and being like, hey, I want to let you know about my podcast. Please feel free to write a review if you want to, or download it or follow along, And that was me like when I was a hairstylist, like when I was first building my clientele, I would be the first person that would be like, I just met somebody or whatever. That was back in the day when you had business cards. And I'd be like, hey, I noticed your hair. You've got a really cute haircut. If you ever need something else or like you want to put some color in it or blah, 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 I'd give them my card. And so that's kind of just like my nature of who I am. I guess maybe I don't have a problem putting myself out there or sharing things that I'm passionate about. And so it's been kind of funny. I'm sure I'm driving my staff crazy and probably the people around me because I'm talking about it so much, but it's been so much fun.
That's awesome. What's the name of the podcast?
Trust Your Inner Sense.
Trust Your Inner Sense. Yeah. And it's on
everywhere
place. Where
you
can see it.
Yeah.
So that reminds me about you giving away business cards. I would have flyers in the car, and me and my family would be going, let's say, to Tahoe. Going for the weekend or something like, and we'd pull by a gas station, and there'd be salon at the shopping center. I'm like, and my kids were really young, and I would go to the trunk, get some flyers, and I would go in and give them flyers. I'm like, hey, what's software are you guys using? I used to tell people I compare myself to, have you ever seen Planes, Trains, and Automobile?
Yes.
Remember, what's his name, that actor? He was selling shower curtain, the hooks for the shower curtain. I always felt like I'm hip, you know what I mean? It just reminded me of myself. I'm like the guy who was selling shower curtains to everybody, you know what I mean? So, yeah. And people would be like, I don't know this crazy guy. And I would only have like 2 minutes. Just go in,
Of course,
give them
that's all
flyer
you
and
have.
leave, and
Yeah.
hopefully they'll sign up. I don't
Right.
even know if any one of them signed up,
Right.
but I always did it.
Yeah. But that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean,
Yeah.
and when people do that to me, it makes me feel so good.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? That people have
Yeah.
either the confidence or just like, I'm willing to listen to anybody and like whatever they're up to. You know, I think it's super cool. So yeah.
I think I told you this. I keep getting in trouble for buying the same shampoo from my hairdresser.
Right.
And I was like, you bought I'm like, she does such a good job in selling me the shampoo. I feel bad saying no.
Right.
She's like, well, you have like a year supply. I'm like, I know, but like she did such a good job selling it. Like, you know. So I think we should all appreciate somebody who's trying to sell us something. You
Absolutely.
Know? Yep.
Absolutely.
Well, that was great, you know, and thank you for spending time with me and sharing your life story with us, you know.
Of course.
And,
Thank you for having me.
good
I was
luck with your
hoping that I was
business.
going to be able to ask you a few questions, but
But go ahead, shoot.
well, when was a moment you trusted your inner sense?
I'm trying to think. Okay, so when I got laid off in 2008, I trusted that I can make a successful company, probably more than anyone else. Talking about, my wife wanted me to get a job somewhere else, just like you did with your husband. And I was very determined that I'm never going to work for anyone else and create my own company. And the company was going to be for salons, for booking with salons, the same exact company that I've created right now. But remember when I said naivete is like the best gift we could have? I was so naive about what it takes to do it. I thought it's going to be one computer sitting in my office that does all the booking and so on. And I can start a company I don't need a lot of money and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And later on, I realized, you know, it takes millions of dollars you know, the company was mostly me, right? Me and 4 developers and working 24/7 to make it happen. So that's when I trusted it. When we became cash flow positive, that was a little bit more of a reconfirmation, you know, for my inner sense. I'm like, okay, we're reaching the other side of this. And the one time where I'm like, okay, this is good. I remember my wife has always wanted a particular car model for years. And she never had a nice purse either. And I remember in 1 week, we went shopping for a nice purse and a nice car.
Aww.
That was her first. And I was like, okay, that was finally... We're out at the other side of this. You know what I mean? So that's kind of...
that's amazing.
Yep.
One other quick question since I have you here. Vagaro, where'd that name come from?
Not as nice story as yours. I was, remember we had to be website first,
Right.
and finding domain names is very hard.
Okay, okay.
But I wanted a name that I figured it's for the beauty industry, so I wanted a name that sounds Italian or French.
Oh,
So I started looking for kids' names in Italian and French. I'm Googling kids' names, and I found this website that had a bunch of names for Italian. And I don't think it was Vagaro. It was something else. Might have been Vagaro or something like that. But I've always wanted the logo to have a clock in it because it's about time.
Oh, okay.
So the V to me was the perfect thing to create the clock
arms
hands.
Of the,
Yep. And the O at the end, I'm like, those two, we could do an animation where the V and the O could get together and make a watch or a clock,
Neat.
So I saw Vagaro, V and O at the end, and the name sounded like enticing to me. I'm like, hey, I like saying Vagaro. Like, people like to say Google,
Right.
like almost it has a meaning, but people just love saying it. It sounds fun, right? To say it. I'm like, it's kind of a cool word to say, and it sounds good, and it's still generic to where if we want to book other than salons and spas, we can, so I'm like, the name is Vagaro, and I ran it by my wife and friends, and they're like, yeah, we like it. I'm like, okay, that's a name. The domain existed, and that's kind of
off you went. Awesome. That's a great story. Thank you for sharing that with me.
Is that all?
That's it. I think that's it.
All right. Very good.
I'll have you on my podcast to ask the hard questions.
All right. Very good. If you enjoyed the conversation, make sure to follow the show, leave a review, and tell your friends about it, if you know what I mean. You know what I mean?